Lights, camera, action, Josh. We're back together finally. It's been what, 2 weeks?
It's a long time.
Well, first of all, happy spring break on your end. It seems like you're in the little sunny side of it all, going down to Boca. How you been?
Doing pretty good. Been busy this week, man. Took some time in Sarasota and
Oh,
Siesta Key, then went down to the actual Keys, Key West, Marathon, Key Largo, and then now finishing the week in Boca Raton.
fancy.
Hitting all the beaches. That's the plan.
Fancy. Good margaritas, good beach vibes.
Great mojitos.
Go, switch it. Get a little spicy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I mean, I was up in Minnesota last week for a while. It was fun. Had some really crazy times, but, fortunately I couldn't make it because I was in rough shape. Not just like in that way, but sick, and I've been dealing with it all week. Just a lot of stuff. Hasn't been the best on my part getting back into it, but I'm here. I'm back. I'm ready to talk about football. It's been way too damn long. I'm excited to get into it because, first of all, Josh, fantastic job with the mock draft last week.
Mm-hmm.
Putting the weight on your shoulders. That was awesome, man. Great work with that.
Yeah, you know what? It was good. It was not that it was easy. I don't think mock drafts are ever easy, but it was something that I felt like I could do. Plus, it was great. I didn't get interrupted one time.
Wow. Okay. Hey, I'm going to be signing off. I'll see you later, Josh. Yeah, you have a good one.
I'll do a second episode in a row by myself.
No. But
No,
yeah,
I'm not
because of the mock draft stuff, we pushed a couple things back. And obviously the biggest one has been free agency. And free agency has been the second week, 2 weeks into free agency. Obviously there's been a lot of recap on, week one, which was the biggest week. It was a pretty surprising week filled with a lot of stuff. But kind of like 2 weeks in, I think this is the right time to really talk about it because you get some straggler signings. But at the same time, you get time to kind of recuperate what's going on. We had a couple trades going on. So I think the grades have changed a little bit, at least for my face value of when I had it from week one. But yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about today. And I'm excited to get into it. I think, what is it? The plan is doing AFC teams this week and then next week running into some of the NFC teams. So, I mean, without further ado, we obviously usually figure some portion of the start of the show to talk about trades. There's been a lot that's gone on, but I think we're going to incorporate that a little bit more into our talk about each team. Am I right, Josh?
Yeah, and I think it's smart. Obviously, there's been a bunch of trades, and instead of just going a little out of order, we're going to try to stay a little more structured. I know it's kind of not what we normally do, but stay a little structured. And then this week, AFC, next week, NFC, and then that will kind of get us into draft time. And then from there, might something special, might put some rankings. We'll kind of see. But without further ado, James, how about you start us off on your first team you want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be kind of clear cut. I think we're going to kind of, we usually do it in divisions, but not today. We're going to spice it up. With our first AFC team, this is one that I have a lot of questions about, and I have personally found to be pretty interesting. And that is the Baltimore Ravens are our first AFC team. They had a really interesting offseason. I mean, first of all, I think you have to look at two perspectives, or three perspectives actually, is you lost a lot of key players. There's two specifically in Tyler Linderbaum and Isaiah Likely, as well as guys like Alohi Gilman, Draymond Jones, not anymore because they technically traded. I don't know why he's still in my head. But they lost a lot of key players. In regards to their signings, I did like their signings. I think the Jalen Hawkins signing, replacing Alohi Gilman, 2 years, $10 million, is a really good deal for a guy who, coming off of a career year in New England, has a chance to bolster that secondary. I also do like the John Simpson signing, him reuniting in Baltimore. You need interior offensive line depth, especially after Tyler Linderbaum left. It still is a really big concern of mine. I'll dive into that in a second. Finally, the biggest probably piece of news for this entire team was the Max Crosby saga and then Trey Hendrickson. Obviously, I guess, at least from my perspective on the Max Crosby trade, and we'll talk about it a little bit, is I thought it was an okay trade. It's kind of relative to the same value as Micah Parsons if you take away Kenny Clark, but Kenny Clark was a little bit more of an add-on from that perspective. Max Crosby at the same time, I wouldn't say is as productive, and he is a lot older.
Yep.
He is an older player. So that was a lot to give up for an edge rusher, especially when you had so many other needs. And I know there was a whole situation going on. So technically, instead of Max Crosby, you get your 2 first-round picks, but you also go out and sign Trey Hendrickson. Obviously they needed a primary pass rusher. Trey Hendrickson, an in-division guy, coming off of a not an amazing year, had dealt with a ton of injuries, a big time core injury, but he's a productive pass rusher. He's been fantastic for Cincinnati. To me, I think he is, if not the most underrated pass rusher in the NFL for the past couple of years, handful of years. So you get him. However, of course, it's a lot of money. 60 million guaranteed, 112 million for a guy who I think is 30 years old coming off of a big injury. But at the same time, you're able to maintain your 2 first-round picks, which is what I think they really needed to do too, because this team needs more players. Specifically, my main concern is that interior offensive line. Tyler Linderbaum was a huge piece to that team, and even when he was with them, their interior offensive line was not good. So I think John Simpson's a good replacement, but I think that's going to be their primary target in the draft and keeping those 2 first-round picks. Without
Yeah.
factoring in, or I was going to say this, without factoring in
Mhm.
the losses, I would give it probably a B plus. I really do
Okay.
like their signings. I like the fact they were able to hang on to their 2 first-round picks. But because of the extent to which they lost so many players and now have to fill out all that depth, I'm going to give them a B minus for the offseason.
Yeah, I agree with it. It is such an interesting thing to watch, that Max Crosby saga. With them backing out of this trade and quickly churning up, to the next available option. As a football mind, it's a great move. You save 2 first round picks. You get a guy that's just as productive as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
But then there's also the negatives on that. How does that, everyone's now confused of, was it Max Crosby? Was it the Raiders that didn't say anything? Or was it the Ravens that came out and just
Mm,
annulled this trade because they found something cheaper? So
yeah.
yes, I agree that they made a choice that is going to help their team, does not help their image, which is something really interesting.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
saying that
100%.
Trey Hendrickson is the exact same player as Max Crosby. Pass rushing, it's pretty similar. But the big thing about Trey Hendrickson and a huge thing about Max Crosby is their run stop win rate, especially.
Yeah.
Um, Max Crosby is one of the best run stopping D linemen. Trey Hendrickson had a 16% last year. That was last among all edge
God.
rushers. And there's plays
Wow.
where, watching his tape especially, he plays every snap like it's a pass rush. He will get up to upfield and then be completely out of every single run. Well, it'll be interesting to see. Yes, the Bengals didn't have the greatest D line. Really do the Ravens, but you do keep 2 first round picks. You can use that in other spots that you really need. It'll be interesting to see where they end up going in the draft. They still have a lot of needs. Interior offensive line. You have still some needs in secondary. You have older corners, especially wide receivers. Still a big issue.
Hmm.
Same as they love running 12, 13 personnel. You lost both Charlie Kohler and Isaiah
That was the
Likely.
guy I was thinking of. Yeah.
So it's another big thing of okay, now your entire offensive scheme is different. But with all that being said, I'm right there with you. I think it's a B. You get the big name players, you get some good depth pieces, bring back Tyler Huntley. Again, I just have to go and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I think it's a lot of losses, but I think I did like their gains and what they got from it. So, but yeah, that is with the Baltimore Ravens. Now into our next team. That is the Buffalo Bills. This one is a little bit different. I personally did not like this offseason as much. Specifically, I think their best move was
Mm-hmm.
retaining Connor McGovern for the price that
Yeah.
they were able to get him for. 4 years, 52 million, 32 million guaranteed, really good center. He took a little bit of a hometown discount. You need to take at least one of those guys back on the interior offensive line. In regards to their signings, yeah, not my favorite class. Some of the smaller guys, Gardner Johnson, Geno Stone, safety depth pieces. Geno Stone was one of the worst safeties in the league last year. Gardner Johnson's a little bit of a head case, but he's still a reliable player. Going into their bigger moves, I just think they put way too much money into okay players. D. Alford getting 3 years, $21 million as
Yeah.
average to below average corner is a lot. Trying to kind of fill a hole of Teron Johnson, which was a whole thing in itself. He was still, to me, not a bad player. And they basically were going to keep, like,
Gave his
it
contract away.
gave his contract away to the Raiders, and the Raiders get a, quality corner. And so, trying to replace that with a guy like this, I just think a lot of money throwing around for a guy who has just not been great. Same thing with Bradley Chubb. Trying to replace Joey Bosa, you need a guy next to Gregory Rousseau, who had a little bit of a down year, but 3 years, 45 million, 43.5 million with 30 million of that guaranteed. He's an old player, has had injuries, was decent with Miami, pretty solid, but
Hmm.
that's a lot of money to give Bradley Chubb, who's kind of in his backwards years. I mean, to me, it kind of rings similar to, a little bit similar to the massive contract Von Miller got when he was kind of in his backward years from Buffalo, trying to get people in the pass rush. Finally, it was DJ Moore. I think that DJ Moore is an immediate upgrade, and obviously in the wide receiver room, you can't take that away. He's probably your wide receiver one for Buffalo. They were desperate to get a receiver, but man, I just do not think this was a good trade. I was not expecting him to give up a second round pick for him, number one. You're taking on so much money from DJ Moore. You give up a second round pick. And on top of that, yeah, DJ Moore's had big plays, but he hasn't had 1,000 receiving yards in a couple of years. And he's getting there up in age. I don't know how old he is, if he's like 30, like 28
He
to
should be.
30
It's not the
years
same
old. I think
draft
he's
class
in,
as Calvin Ridley.
yeah, so he's in that age bracket. And, obviously he hasn't had a productive wide receiver 1 year, and I'd say probably about 2 to 3 years. And so I think, yeah, obviously when you look at these signings, you're trying to get upgrades, you're trying to get veteran guys to go out and compete. But I just think for the price tags that they got them, one, it was way too much, and two, these are guys kind of on the decline, guys that you can't necessarily say, like, we're going to keep with Josh Allen for the long run. Um, and I just don't think they were great signings. And so for that, I think they're solid upgrades, but I'm going to give this one a D plus. I just did not like this offseason as much as I really thought it would. Although it is upgrades, it's just not the upgrades I was exactly looking for.
Yeah. Oh man, you said D minus is what he gave him.
D plus, D plus.
D plus. You know, I do think they upgraded their roster. I think that they had to overpay for a bunch of people. I mean, like, you basically trade out starter for starter, trade away Toronto Johnson just for D Alfred, gave him basically the same contract. Same with Joey Bosa with Bradley Chubb. Like, they're just filling in spots with players that are older, past their prime. They're in such a win now mode because of their cap situation that it's so interesting to watch them overpay for players that don't deserve these contracts.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think. And here's my thing is why I gave him because yeah, obviously, yeah, you overpay in free agency, you get players that maybe don't deserve those contracts. But I just don't think they're good signings for what they
Mm-mm.
are. I just don't think these guys are going to go and make those impacts even as average players. I think a lot of I mean, like, listen, I like Bradley Chubb. He's a fine player, but he's just not. I think, one, it's an overpay, and two, they're just not great players
Yeah.
from my perspective and where they're going. And I think it's, obviously teams have desperation, but these seemed like the most desperate signings in football, maybe besides a couple of other teams.
I think that they are in desperation mode right now with
Mhm.
everything that's been going on. They're still in this. They're stuck. If they don't win in the next few years, this might go down to one like the biggest dynasty potentials and what if stories if they don't get something soon.
I mean, it's a Buffalo Bills thing, 4 Super Bowls in a row, you don't win anything. So
Hmm.
they could continue on that. But moving on to our next team, Cincinnati Bengals. Um, excuse me. Obviously, you do lose Trey Hendrickson, which is probably your biggest loss. I like that they re-signed Dalton Reisner. He was a really unsung hero for them in the interior offensive line. I like their signings. I do like their signings for
Yeah.
what they are. Jonathan Allen, 2 years, $28 million. He's a definite upgrade over TJ Slayton, over your defensive tackle room. brings that veteran presence along the defensive line and still can produce quality reps at a position. Got him on a really solid deal, in my opinion. Boye Mafe was probably their biggest one, 3 years, 60 million. They needed pass rush in that room. This is probably my least favorite of the contracts. 20 million a year for Boye Mafe, who could be productive, but still is kind of that Cincinnati Bengals type pass rusher where he's freakishly athletic, but doesn't have necessarily the numbers to back it up. But he is an upgrade, comes from a winning culture, could a really solid piece in pass rush rotation, which was the number one thing for Cincinnati. And by far my favorite signing, one of my favorite signings, Brian Cook, 3 years,
Mhm.
42.5 million. This is a really good safety coming into probably the worst safety room in the NFL last year, unless I'm forgetting some other team. But this is an immediate upgrade to their secondary, a really solid contract for an above average safety. I like that contract. So I like the deals that they were able to bring in. Obviously, I wish there would have been a little bit more defensive signings. I think they could have really used a linebacker. Obviously, linebacker was probably the biggest one, which they haven't addressed, at least not yet. But I do like the signings for what they are. They immediately address all, 2 layers of their defense, bring in some veteran help. So I'm actually not I'm not a hater of this. I
Mhm.
actually like this free agency. I just wish they did a little bit more. And so that's why I give them a B.
Yeah, we can be kind of quick with this. I mean, I only had a few signings, but both Oye Mafe and Brian Cook both bring two veteran guys that have played at very high levels with two very, very great, very good teams, and are both fantastic tacklers.
Yes.
That's one thing that they really lacked last year. I mean, Brian Cook was the fourth best safety tackler of according to lowest PFF with lowest miss rate. And Boye Mafe is a extremely versatile athletic edge player that was top 10 in pass rush last year.
Hmm.
So hopefully that's able to register towards sacks as it didn't last year, but in previous years it has. But yeah, I mean, you get two quality players that are day one starters and fits into big holes that they need.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. All right. On to our next C team in the AFC. We have the Cleveland Browns. Oh man, this is very different.
Hmm.
This is one where they literally, I think, addressed one position the entire time, went all in.
And that was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do. I think the one outlier is obviously Quincy Williams, 2 years, 17 million. I'd say I like it. Cheaper, like, a relatively premium deal, cheaper than Devin Bush, but could kind of fit that role as a guy who it was a solid player. Quincy Williams, I think, had a higher ceiling, but kind of the come down, could be an unsung signing for that linebacker core room. A really good leader in the part for that defense, bringing him into that defense. I really like that signing. But the main thing is this offensive line. We'll start, we talked about Titus Howard a couple weeks ago on the show, so I won't go into too much detail, but I think it's the right move. It was a good trade for Cleveland. Did not like the contract. It's a whole lot of money for a guy that Houston basically switched from guard to tackle, or switched from tackle to guard, and so now he'll probably play tackle back in Cleveland. Their other two signings, my guy Elton Jenkins, 2 years, 24 million. Not bad. He will probably play center, is what I'm guessing. Even though I will say he did not
He
play.
could play left tackle.
He did play left tackle. He did not
Yep.
play very well when he was a center. His best position is left guard. So I could definitely see him playing there. There is risk. He's coming off an injury, failed his physical with Green Bay. So there is injury risk. But when he's on the field, especially at left guard or left tackle, he's a really good player and brings, a veteran offensive line persona and is a former 2-time Pro Bowler. And the other one, their biggest one, Zion Johnson, 3 years, 49.5 million. Kind of true with all these guys. It is a lot of money. I do not like this one the most. I may be close to Titus Howard. Zion Johnson is a solid guard, and he's being paid as a above average guard, if not a premium guard. I think there's a reason why the Chargers let him walk for this money, even though the Chargers still have really bad holes on the interior offensive line. I think that kind of rings true. but he is a immediate upgrade to their offensive line. He was a rock solid leader for the Chargers, still can play at a good level, has upside too. And I think the theme is here is and again I like it is they went and attacked the trenches. They basically started with no guys on their offensive line and now have 3 to 4 new starters if you're counting bringing back Tevin Jenkins, which I like as well. But still, it's still to the point they're going to need to address this in the draft. But I like that they were very aggressive in these signings for their offensive line. And I really like the Quincy Williams signing. I just think it's a lot of money to give guys like Zion Johnson and Titus Howard. And I'm really interested to see how they're going to position these guys because they played, for specifically Titus Howard and Elton Jenkins, played different positions at better levels. So that's why I'm going to give him a B- for this one.
Yeah, it's a high risk, high reward. Someone like Zion Johnson was one of the worst pass protecting guards, but one of the best run blockers. So with such big question marks at quarterback, you try to go out and get guys that are going to really help with pass blocking. And that's, or I apologize, run blocking. And someone like Zion Johnson, Elton Jenkins, getting Tevin Jenkins back, all these guys are really going to help solidify that Todd Monken style of offense. And that's a run heavy, down your throat, Quinshon Junkins, 3 carries within the first 4 plays type of game.
Yep.
So they still have a lot of holes. You replace, to me at this point in their careers, Quincy Williams is actual replacement of, Devin Bush. You have a lot more question marks still at receiver, but you have multiple first round picks. They could easily become more competitive this year than they have been the last, hate to say it, but 25 years.
I mean, yeah. I think every Cleveland Brown fan would agree. They did have that run though with Baker at a couple playoff games, won a playoff game. So we'll see. Next team, the Denver Broncos. I at the start had this at like a D because I was like, they did not sign anyone. They didn't get better. I will say they brought back important players.
Mm-hmm.
I like bringing back Justin Shrinad, who was a really unsung linebacker in their group, played really well when he was on the field. Bring back veteran leader Alex Singleton. They did cut Dre Greenlaw. It's a little surprising considering when he was on the field, he played well. But again, when he was on the field, had a lot of injury issues. Did not like the Adam Troutman re-signing. 3 or 17 million for, I'd say, a below average tight end.
Yep.
J.K. Dobbins, I thought was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Up to 20 million for him. I said they should bring him back, but was not expecting that much money. But this team completely changed their trajectory, and in my opinion, changed their offseason because I didn't think they had a lot of holes. I really didn't. You look at their offseason roster, I just didn't think they had a lot of holes, except for wide receiver. I think they needed Cortland Sutton's not getting any younger, and just a lot of okay players in the back end. But they go out, they trade for Jalen Waddle, a first, a third, and what is it, a fifth?
And a fourth.
A fourth.
First, third, fourth for Jalen Waddle and Miami's fourth.
Yeah, so fourth, basically a 4th round pick swap. Going into the trade, I guess a little more in depth, we'll talk about the other side with Miami when they come up. This is what the Broncos needed to do. That they go out and they attack. I'm a big fan of Jalen Waddle. I think he's a really good player. He is, kind of a little bit of an opposite to Cortland Sutton, which I think is going to be really fun for them. Immediately probably becomes their wide receiver 1. You need to give Bo Nix as many weapons as you can. And I think Jalen Waddle's the perfect guy. He's young. You keep his contract. What is he, like 26 or 27? Still got a lot more left in the tank. Very explosive wide receiver. You could say, oh, yeah, his production numbers dipped. But then look who was throwing him the ball, and that was Tua Tagovailoa. So I really like this trade for Denver. I think it's a lot better than the DJ Moore trade we talked about a little bit ago because I just think Jalen Waddle's a better player, younger, has more upside. So my pick actually was I still think they have some holes. I think they could address a little more in the interior of their defensive line. I also think maybe adding another linebacker into their group is what they need to do, but they didn't really need the 30th overall pick at this point. So I swapped their D for actually a B+. I think they really shot up this offseason specifically because of that one trade, being able to re-sign some of your key guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would actually put them up to an A. I think, yes, most importantly, you have Bo Nix currently on a rookie contract, but they are still allocating so much money to other positions. Nick Benito, Patrick Surtain, both have massive contracts. Multiple people in the offensive line have deals that are over 20 million a year. So being able to get an explosive receiver that complements your offense perfectly, like Jalen Waddle, and truly they didn't lose too many players. John Franklin Myers,
Hmm.
is probably is the biggest one that they lost. But you have so much depth in a D line room, and they're all signed for long term. So it is a big loss, and they will, we'll see how the defense kind of adjusts. But gave up one first and some day 2, day 3 picks for a guy that can easily could have completely changed the outcome of this offense last year. I mean, you saw someone like Marvin Mims was able to do in the playoffs. And this is a guy, Jen Waddle is Marvin Mims like 10.0,
Yeah,
like 10
yeah.
times better. Corey Franklin, was a 5th or 6th round pick last year, and he completely like exploded because they needed a deep threat receiver. So Jalen Waddle can step in, take those reps, and is going to be able to explode this offense.
Yeah, maybe I was a little too harsh on them, but I do think it was a really good move for their part. But yes, moving on. Okay, keep the train rolling. We're
Yeah.
getting there. The Houston Texans. This was another offseason I actually really liked for them. I like this offseason for Houston. Some of their re-signings, re-signed Ed Ingram, 3 year, 37.5 million. He had his best season there. He was really good offensive guard for them. Keep him in the same system. It is a little high of a price, but still, offensive line is one of their biggest needs. Danielle Hunter putting him on an extension, a lot of money, 1 year, 40.1 million. Couple other guys, extending Dalton Schultz, bringing back Sheldon Rankins, Trent Brown, Mimi Fairbairn. These are all really kind of key depth pieces, guys you can move around. Already talked about David Montgomery trade. It's okay for them, I think, but he's a short yardage goal line kind of guy, which is what they really struggled at last year. But I really like their signings. I think the Reed Blankenship signing is really good. He was a really solid safety for Philly. Comes in, places Jimmy Ward, who they released 3 years, 24 and 3/4 million. Another one I think could be a really unsung one is Logan Hall, two
Yep.
years, 7 million. He was double teamed a lot in Tampa Bay, and when he was one-on-one, he had fantastic reps. And especially with the Houston defensive line, they're probably going to one-on-one rep him again. So I think this is a very low risk, high reward guy for a defensive tackle. Was a big fan of that. But the two biggest ones, in my opinion, first, Braden Smith, 2 years, 20 million, was considering retirement, comes to Houston. Love this signing. Fantastic right tackle for Indy. Could slide in to possibly play guard. I don't think
Could
that's the
even potentially
case.
play left tackle. That's what I
Could
think.
could play left, but I think they're going to want Ariante Ursary to maybe
Potentially.
do that. But I'm not sure. Still, great veteran offensive lineman to put in. The other guy, Wyatt Teller, same
Hmm.
thing. You get your new guard duo of Ed Ingram and Wyatt Teller. Again, really solid veteran offensive linemen. Yeah, these guys are old, but they're very good players still at their age. You need to upgrade that offensive line for CJ Stroud. Because, I mean, listen, CJ Stroud's still in his rookie deal. You bring in all the guys you possibly can to maximize their Super Bowl window. You need offensive line to protect CJ Stroud. Give him some time because as much as I do, when he panics, he makes terrible, terrible decisions. So bolstering that offensive line around him to maximize his capabilities in one of his most important years. I gave this one an A-. I do really like their offseason.
No, and I agree. They targeted what they needed, and that's trenches. I think to me, this is such a hard grade because honestly, I'm a little confused where these offensive linemen are going to play. To me, your biggest need is center, and you don't necessarily have a person that they either re-signed or went out and signed that can play that center position. Braden Smith played his entire Indy career at right tackle. He played guard in college, so that's he has a little bit of flexibility. Wyatt Teller with that contract can for sure play as a starting guard. Ed
Yeah.
Ingram, they re-signed to play guard. Alante Ursay was his second year now, played really well down the stretch of left tackle, and they re-signed Trent Brown and play the right tackle. So unless they're thinking about potentially kicking, Ed Ingram or Wyatt Teller into center, to me, they have 4 positions with 5 potential starters. So while that's not necessarily a bad thing, you could have spent that money on another position if it comes down to that. So
Excuse me.
I think it's just something to think about. I'll be really interested to see what their week 1 depth chart is. If Wyatt Teller, Ed Ingram, even Braden Smith moves to that potential center position and how that kind of, I'm just scared.
Right.
Last year, there was so much issues of, switching and mixing the offensive line through like the first, 8 weeks. And then once they finally found the position that they liked, they worked out well. Well, you may not have those first 8 weeks to figure things out this year.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think in my opinion, what I picture it as, you got Ursary at left tackle, Ed Ingram at left guard. Center is, to me, I just don't see any of these guys. I just don't see taking these veterans and putting them in a position that they've never
Hmm.
played for the first time, because that is a big risk. It's exactly what happened with Elgton Jenkins, and he didn't play as well. So I think center is something they have two second round picks. I think that's something you address there. And then you got Wyatt Teller,
Yep.
Braden Smith, Trent Boucher, swing tackle. At least that's the way that I picture it. But I do get what you're
Hmm.
saying. But although it's better to have more offensive
Too many
linemen,
than not
too many
enough.
than not enough. So
Yeah.
I did like their offseason.
Hmm.
But one I didn't like as much in the same division was the Indianapolis Colts. They actually had a lot going on. I'll kind of rotate through what they did. We'll start. They made a trade, getting defensive tackle Colby Wooden in exchange for Zaire Franklin. This one I'm not the biggest fan of. Zaire Franklin, yeah, he had a really bad season last season, but you look at their linebacking room now. Can you name any linebacker on the Indianapolis Colts right now?
Jermaine Pratt was their starter last year.
Yeah.
They have Chad Muma. But that's just because I'm a Jags fan. They picked him off waivers last year. Um, yeah, there's not much there.
Yeah, and they get Colby Wooden, who is a okay rotational defensive tackle as perspective of the Green Bay Packers. So I just their whole that whole kind of becomes even bigger. In regards to re-signings, their two biggest ones, Alec Pierce, 4 years, 160 million. I am not a big fan of this one. I think Alec
Hmm.
Pierce is a one-trick pony. Basically, people are like, oh, 1,000 yards and, under what, 50 catches,
48 catches.
48
Yeah,
catches.
48.
Why? Because every single time it was just go balls. I just don't think
Hmm.
he's that. You're paying him all this wide receiver one money when he plays more like a Rashid Shaheed than he does a guy like Jalen Waddle or anyone else. So I was not the. I like Alec Pierce. I think it's good to bring him back as a key weapon. Just think it's a lot of money for a guy who just kind of is a go ball guy. Same thing with Daniel Jones. 2 years, 88 million. That's a lot of money for a quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. I do think you needed to bring him back though. He was
Yep.
kind of a lifesaver on the offense. Shane Seiton's under definitely hot water right now. Same with their general manager. So it's a lot of money, but I do like this. Their free agency was relatively quiet. Bring in Jonathan Owens. Some of their other guys, they traded Michael Pittman, which I was really. I have a little explanation for this. I do not think they should have kept Michael Pittman. His contract was too large. He
Hmm.
was definitely on the decline. Getting him for a 6th-round pick is just, to me, not enough.
It's a contract dump. That's all it is.
It's a contract dump, but I think they did it at the wrong time specifically because you look at the wide receiver market now, teams are absolutely desperate. And I think that the
Hmm.
Colts jumped the gun too early and gave up Michael Pittman for a bag of chips when they could have gotten, let's say, maybe even a fourth or a third, because teams would have been really desperate for wide receivers. A couple of their signings, Michael Clemens is probably one of their biggest ones, and he's a fine defensive tackle, nothing crazy. Same thing with Arden Key. You're getting okay depth at defensive line, which is what you need. You need guys to rotate in the pass rush, but
Yeah.
just not enough. And same thing, bringing in Cam Taylor Britt, again, just a decent guy. I like that a little more because I think he has a higher upside, but I just don't think Cincinnati or Indianapolis did enough. I don't think they
Hmm.
did enough to address their defense. They're basically in contending now place after the Sauce Gardner trade, and they didn't make moves to become big time contenders, in my opinion. And that's why I just think it's really weird where they're at, and I'm gonna give them a C minus. Or actually, I'm gonna give them a D plus. I'm gonna give them a D plus.
Okay. And some other moves, they tried. Now, again, the draft has not happened. And while they don't have a first round pick, they can still target and should target wide receiver pretty early on. They did go and get Nick Westbrook Akine to kind of replace a little bit that bigger receiver that Michael Pittman was. They also went and got Akeem Davis Gaither, linebacker, kind of just add more depth in there. But, for a team that was so close to contending, they're really trying to run it back with a team that's less talent, as much talent as they had last year. Alec Pierce, to me, I can't see how you give $116 million to a receiver that's just a one trick. Him and Wandale Robinson to me are like exact opposites of each other.
Yeah.
Wandale Robinson will get 130 catches for 1,000 yards. Alec Pierce will get 50 for 1,000 yards. So, there's a lot of conversations. Do you want more of a one trick pony, but a guy that's really good at doing that one trick, or a guy who is always going to be open for those short routes? So that's a conversation for another day. They try to replace Quiddy Pay, Arden Key, and Michael Clemens. They're okay guys. Derek Nani as well. They try to get, but I guess this all comes down to if Daniel Jones plays week 1 and if he is, as effective as he was last year, coming off that Achilles.
Yeah.
There's a lot to dislike. There is a lot of like. I do think Alec Pierce would have gotten similar numbers in free agency, but I have this more closer to a C, just because you did retain the guys you needed to,
Yeah.
just maybe at a higher mark than what people expected.
Yeah. I do. Just saying that, I'll probably throw it up. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt with C minus, but just I think there's a lot of questions still going into Indianapolis this season.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, we're rolling with the AFC South. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Josh, you wanna talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, I'll go through it. I wasn't surprised as a Jags fan. You lose 2 key contributors, and Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne. Those are 2 huge losses. Both of them went out and got relative and a lot of money from their respective teams. To me, and James Gladstone, the GM of the Jaguars, have kind of come out and said this. They are looking to replace those players through compensatory picks for next year, as well as guys they have on the roster. They drafted both Rachel Tune and LaQuinn Allen at running back last year, and they have Ventrell Miller currently and Jack Kaiser they drafted in the 5th round last year to potentially take linebacker snaps if they don't touch that again in these next few days or in free agency. You do get, you do resign some key players. Monteric Brown, 3 years, $33 million. It's a big amount of money, but he was one of the best in zone coverage. That is one of the things that the Jags run the most in base coverage is a heavy zone with some sort of blitz. Get someone like Dennis Gardeck. He's a guy that's kind of a tweener, linebacker edge, was really effective on 3rd down pass rush, especially. And he allows a lot of versatility when it comes to something like Trayvon Walker moving inside and outside. Other than that, they went out and they did go and get Chris Rodriguez, 2-year, $10 million. It's a lot of money for a guy that's never been a lead bell cow. But most importantly, he is reuniting with Liam Cohen from their days in Kentucky. Chris Rodriguez, when he does get carries, hit about 500 yards last year. He is efficient. He's a big bruising back. So he kind of adds that double dimension with Rachel Tuden, but it's not a lot. There's reports right now that they have targeted Jake Bobo, wide receiver from the Seahawks. He is a restricted free agent, so Seattle has 5 days to match or raise that price. So I'm not going to really say anything more about that. But they were in a very bad cap situation, and they had limited movement. But re-signing Monteric Brown, I think, to me, was the top priority, and they went out and got that. But because you had so much expectations, I have them as a C minus D plus. I think that's pretty fair. You lose 2 key contributors.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. I had it at a D plus. It's hard. I take obviously those were 2 huge guys. Do second team All Pro linebacker. You have a lot of cap issues. I do like the Monteric Brown re-signing, but you did lose really key players that were huge in your development as a team. And there's a lot of questions going in behind it. Obviously, you're relying on those late round picks to kind of produce when those guys you got were 1st round picks, kind of played premium roles. And there's a lot of questions going into some of that, and I think it's very hard. It's very tough. You get that sometimes. I think what makes it worse a little bit too is you don't have a 1st round pick.
Yep.
So you're gonna definitely have to rely on some gems in the 2nd, 3rd, and back half rounds. And yeah, that's why I have it a D plus. I just think it's big losses, practically no gains. I mean, Chris Rodriguez is not, I don't think he's a starting running back. I think he's a rotational running back. So you still haven't necessarily filled that hole yet. But again, like kind of like some of the other teams. It's not even the fact that they got guys that I just hated the signings. Just they
Hmm.
didn't get anyone and they lost some really, really good players. That's what I have it as a D plus as well.
Yeah, and well, I was saying they're and as Jags fans, Jags front office, I'm going to say we because I feel like I'm at this
Yeah,
point part
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Um, we are banking on the production and the talent of last year's draft class.
Yes.
Between Travis Hunter playing at this point full time corner, Caleb Bransaw, our third round pick, was injured all last year. He would take out that Andrew Wingard potentially starting safety position. Jack Kaiser we drafted. You just have a lot of guys that can take up these positions. I already talked about Rachel Tudor and will get a lot of snaps this upcoming year. And that's what I think they're really banking on is the not only the production, but the development of these players.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right. On to the next team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Really good one here. Good one. I like what they did.
Hmm.
Start, you bring back Travis Kelce and Tyquan Thornton. You have to bring back Travis Kelce. I like that they brought back Tyquan Thornton. He was a good rotational receiver for them, kind of had his
Oh yeah.
best year. A couple of their signings, Iris Tonga, 3 years, 21 million. It's a lot for a nose tackle, but they needed that replacement. You need someone next to Chris Jones, someone who is really solid at the run, big, thick, and physical. That's the guy. They're my two favorites. Obviously, I'd say I do like the Alohi Gilman signing. He's been a
Hmm.
rock solid safety. Comes in, replaces Brian Cook at a really good price, only 15 million guaranteed over 3 years. So I do like that signing a lot for them. I think he is an upside player, fits well with Spags. But then obviously the biggest one that they had, Kenneth Walker, 3 years, up
Yep.
to 45 million. Yes, it's a lot of money, but this is something the Chiefs have not had probably since rookie Kareem Hunt, which is crazy to say.
That's almost 10 years.
Is a premium running back one. Obviously, when the Chiefs do well, their offense is elite. They play amazing, but you need to take some of that pressure off of Patrick Mahomes. I hated within the first 5 weeks that the Chiefs' leading rusher was Patrick Mahomes.
Hmm.
He's coming off of an ACL tear. You need to alleviate some of that pressure from him. Kenneth Walker's the perfect guy to do that. Explosive, fast, quick, coming off of an elite playoff run, which is good for the Chiefs because you know that he could do well in those big time games. There is some interest because I think he's just their running back one. I don't know if they have a lot of guys behind him. So he's going to be thrusted into definitely a bigger role with Kansas City, but I think this is something they desperately needed to do. The only thing I'd say is they still have a decent amount of holes on the roster. Secondary is a big concern after losing Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook, and Jalen Watson. But the Chiefs, as they're known for, gems in the draft. They love developing corners. Another one I could really see is offensive line. You lose Jawan Taylor, so
You do have Jalen Moore they signed last year
yeah, you do
to
it.
potentially play right tackle as of now.
So that, and then also pass rush is a big one too. So that's one. And then also losing Leo Chenal, maybe getting an extra linebacker in that room. So I think there is holes, but you have actually a decent amount of draft capital to do that. And I think the Chiefs are really
Mhm.
good at, excuse me, drafting and developing some of those guys. And for that reason, I give them a B plus for this one.
Yeah, and I agree. I want to point this one stat out to you, and this is just to show you how important Kenneth Walker can potentially be for this team. I want you. This is a little trivia. Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were their two starting running backs last year. Can you tell me how many rushing attempts that they had that went for over 20 yards? Just a standard 20
Just
yard
both
run,
of them.
both of them combined.
I'd say one.
You're exactly right. They had one
Wow.
rush between the two of them that went
That's
over 20
crazy. Oh
yards.
my God.
So you bring in a guy that, yes, he's a Super Bowl MVP, but even before that, he had a fantastic, efficient season, running the ball and receiving. And when you're on a team with Patrick Mahomes, and it doesn't matter who the receivers are, you know the deep threat is always potentially there. Safeties are not going to always creep up to the line of scrimmage. Running lanes open up, RPOs running up, open up. This could potentially be a really, really good signing, and I think the money matches it. So I agree with you. I think it's a high potential, high risk signing.
Hmm.
But to me, I don't see a situation where it doesn't end up being a productive move.
Yeah, it's certainly not like a Trent Richardson thing. I think
Right.
I think it's good. Good's going to come out of it, but I like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Keep it moving because where this is going to be taken a little bit. We still got a lot of teams left.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest ones of the offseason, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, this is a team that needed players, and boy, did they go out and spend a ton of money. I think they were second in spending, if I'm not correct. First of all, I know I mentioned this earlier, trading a 7th-round pick in exchange for Teron Johnson. I think this is a great move, very low risk, high reward. Teron Johnson has been a good corner for a while. Maybe has slowed down a little bit over time. You're taking on a bit of a contract, but secondary desperately needs help. Bring him in. I think it's a great move. A couple of re-signings. Eric Stokes, 3 years, $30 million. I think this was justified considering he had a really, really good season last year for them. And then Malcolm Kuntz is an interesting one. I think this was just because they thought they were going to trade away Max Crosby. Very, high risk, high reward, 1 year, $11 million. So we'll see. They've been banking on him for a while. I don't think he's fully done what he is supposed to do. We'll start at the bottom, go to the top. Signing of them all, they signed Connor Hayward, fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 years, 5.5, their best signing. No, I'm just kidding. One I really like is Jalen Naylor, 3 years, $35 million. I know Minnesota fans like him a lot. He was their only guy left from their 2022 draft class. That's how bad it was. It's crazy. Never forget Lewis Seen. I like this. I think it could be an underrated signing. I think he has a chance to possibly play definitely a wide receiver 3, but has a high upside of possibly playing a wide receiver 2 role for this team. Considering he's had a lot of flashes, even with 9 as their quarterback. Their big duo, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, 2 former teammates, Georgia Bulldogs reuniting. Considering besides Indy, Raiders might have had one of the worst linebacker rooms in the league. The difference is that they went out and they did it.
They did something.
The last time I could think of they did this was when the Bears brought in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. I like the Kobe Dean signing a little bit more. Definitely has some injury issues, but when he's on the field, he's fantastic. He's a very smart player. You get him for a good price, only $20 million guaranteed, 3 years, 36. Quay Walker's a little bit different, I guess, from a Packers perspective. I like him. He is a very fast, physical player, fantastic in the blitzing game, just blows up. But he's definitely more still on that raw side. You're going to need to take some time to develop him. And they paid more for him. 3 years, $40.5 million, $28 million guaranteed. So I think it's a little bit more. I think it's a little bit high priced, a little riskier, but I think he is a immediate upgrade at that position and is a really good complement to Nakobe Dean. And on top of it, I mean, this is the Georgia Raiders, You got Eric Stokes in the back too. My least favorite signing for them by far is the Quiddy Pay contract.
Yeah.
3 years, $48 million. $32 million guaranteed, and this cough is not going away. This might be one of my least favorite contracts in free agency, and this kind of bumps him down a little bit. Is Quiddy Pay a bad player? No. Should he be getting paid this much? No, not at all. He's a good run-stopping defensive end. Hasn't necessarily had the pass rush credentials. He can get to the quarterback sometimes as the premium targets that they've had. Not really sure he's going to fit on this team now that Max Crosby's back with them. He'll probably play alongside him and be a rotational guy, but that's a lot of money for Quiddy Pay. Do not like this contract at all. It rings really true with a contract last year from another Colt, Dio Ingdeba.
Yep.
I can't butcher the last name, but Chicago. Rings very true to that. I'm not feeling good about this, but favorite contract of them all, even that's the most expensive. Tyler Linderbaum, 3 years, $81 million. I think the Raiders' offensive line last year was the worst offensive line in football, run and pass per wise. They were terrible. Tyler Linderbaum immediately changed the culture. It's great to have a premium center alongside a rookie quarterback. I mean, you saw how it worked with Drew Dahlman and Caleb Williams. Williams was in his second year, and Drew Dahlman was his center. Williams played really well. It is a immediate boost that interior offensive line. They're still going to need to restructure it, but Tyler Linderbaum, you get probably the best player in all of free agency to complement your starting quarterback. Love this move. And then on top of it, Max Crosby back on your team. So, the defensive line looks a little bit changed, but hey, you got a leader on that defense too. So I have him at an 8.
Yeah, I love that. Like they went out and they targeted defensive ends with the idea that Max Crosby was not going to be on the team. So with the news that he's coming back, you can look at some of these moves and like, okay, yes, they overpaid for Quiddy Pay. Yes, they kind of overpaid re-signing Malcolm Kuntz because they thought those would be the main
Yeah.
contributors with that defensive line. So that's understandable. This offensive line went from one of the worst to about league average. They really are only missing, potentially one more tackle. Colton Miller, if he is able to come back a little bit healthy, JPJ at that right guard is hopefully with somebody like Linderbaum will be playing much better. Charles Rogers last year played really well for them down the stretch. And then the other tackle spot, he kind of had a rotation. DJ Glaze did not play the best last year, but if they're able to target a tackle early on, that offensive line can really, really come in and help someone like Fernando Mendoza. So I do really like the moves they made. Quay Walker and just like that, the duo of him and Nakobe Dean, like we've seen it work at Georgia, they perfectly mirror what the other one is not great at.
Hmm.
Nakobe Dean's one of the best pass coverage. Quay Walker's one of the best blitzing, tackling linebackers in the league, honestly, how fast he is. So this works, and we've seen it work. So I love that they went and got two former teammates.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So big winners, big winners. But the team that I didn't like as much as the LA Chargers in the division
Mm-hmm.
had some signings. I will say this: they brought back Khalil Mack, couple other guys, Tier Tart, Trey Pipkins, Trevor Penning. Like bringing Khalil Mack back. It's a lot of money, 18 million, but he's still very good at his age, which is just unbelievable. Their signings, though, a little different. Dalvin Tomlinson's a good defensive tackle depth piece. Alec Ingold, I like this one actually.
Yeah.
This is a really good one, I think, for the Chargers. This is a John Harbaugh kind of guy, super physical. They want to establish the ground game, get one of the best fullbacks in the league there. Cole Strange, 2 years, 13 million. Not my favorite, below average offensive guard. I'd say he's more of a backup rather than a starter, but you bring him in as a depth piece for that offensive line. Probably my favorite signing for them. Keaton Mitchell, 2 years, 9 million.
Mm-hmm.
Really good running back too for them. I think he brings high upside, complements physicality of Amari and Hampton really well. Charlie Kolar's another one of their big ones. It's a lot of money for a blocking tight end. Hey, Josh Oliver, how's it going? 3
I
years,
called it.
3 years, 24 million, 17 million guaranteed. Again, they want to be physical. They want to establish the ground game a little more. Has not that much upside as a pass catcher, can still do that running those two tight end sets, but he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. So I think that adds to it. And then I'd say it's my favorite because they just needed it was Tyler Biazdas, 3 years, 30 million. Yeah, you need people on that offensive line. I think considering how the center market played out and that Tyler Linderbaum at the same amount of years got 81 million compared to Tyler Biazdas, I think this is a good signing for them. He's not necessarily the best center, probably middle of the pack, if not a little bit above average, but it's good money and an immediate upgrade. But still, I just think you did not do enough for this offensive line. What is your starting offensive line going to be? Are your two starting offensive guards going to be Trevor Penning and Cole Strange? Because I don't think that's much better than what they have. So I am really interested to see how they attack this draft. They are going to have to go interior offensive line for their first round pick. But I just don't think they did enough to set themselves apart compared to the upgrades that their division has had. And so that does concern me a lot, especially on an offensive line. I'm going to give them a C for this offseason.
Yeah, I'm actually a little lower on them because looking at the roster, maybe there's a center upgrade Tyler Bidas compared to Bradley Bozeman, but other than that, there was no position that they upgraded. Mekhi Becton and Cole Strange are neck and neck when it comes to overall value. I mean, Charlie Kolar, you know what you have in him. You have a elite blocking tight end, but that's about it. He finished last year with his best season, 10 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, yes, that is really good production with limited catches, but he's not going to finish the season with more than 25 catches.
Yeah.
Keenan Mitchell, great, running back 3. Alonde Gradson, you have so many pieces on an offense that you still need to potentially, target. I mean, receivers, another position like Keenan Allen is 34 at this point.
Yeah.
So you can't exactly rely on his production as much. I just don't think they upgraded anywhere except for center. So to me, this is a lower, and with how much money they have, or how much money they did have, this is a D for me.
Wow. That's true too. Yeah, thinking about the amount of money that they had to possibly pay premium positions. But yeah, just not big fans, not big fans
Mm-mm.
of this one. Going on now is a really good one. The Miami Dolphins. Because man, did they do a lot. I'm not a hater because I
Yep.
know what the direction they're going. This is a full rebuild. You just let every single one of your guys walk, and it's the right thing to do. This team was going nowhere in a division where you have the Bills and you have the Patriots coming into this, just running for the top spot. Miami was going nowhere. Blake Will signing, good signing. 3 years, 67.5 million. This is what a rebuilding team should do, especially in a quarterback class that literally has no one. High upside, just, super, super risky. It's a super risky move, but you go into a system that you'll probably know a little bit more considering it's Packers background. And man, when he played, I'm telling you as a Packers fan, like, dude, he looked really, really good. The only issue is he has no help. So
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest knock for this team is that you get Malik Willis, right? And he's kind of this guy that, you're going to need to help and you're going to need kind of take some time, maybe develop. And his starting receivers are Parker Washington,
Tutu Atwell,
Tutu
Malik
Atwell,
Washington.
Jalen Holbert, Malik Washington, and Jalen Tolbert, and tight end Greg Dulcich. Yikes, not great. There you have a ton of one-year signings, but I do kind of like that strategy because you're basically trying to pack diamonds in the rough. See if guys can kind of step up, make plays. Because listen, you're not going to be good next year. So why not take a couple of guys, see if they can turn out like your Zach Bonds, Rasul Douglases, Devondre Campbells of the world. See if they can come out and just be really good players. Jalen Waddle. It's hard. I think for Miami's, it's hard losing him, right? Especially for Malik Willis. He's your premium wide receiver one. Still, I'd say relatively young compared to other premium wide receivers. But again, you're not competing, right? And probably when you're competing, he's going to be close 29 to 30. So getting him, adding an extra first round pick, third round pick too, I don't mind it. I don't mind. I think this is a very win-win trade for both teams. So for that sake, I'm going to give them a B. I think I could go a little higher, but I just think you're putting Malik Willis in a very, very difficult spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think they came in with the idea of resetting not only the roster, but front office and everything. And that's what they did. They trade away everyone that was a little bit older, cut all of the older contracts, and they had some, I really like some of those signings.
Mm-hmm.
The Malik Willis signing, his first year is 20 million guaranteed, about minimum salary, about 1.25 million
Wow.
for the year. And it's all in signing bonus. And it's because of past contracts that they don't have as much money. I love some of their, 1-year deals. Tutu Atwell has, potential to be that vertical threat. Joshua Uche's had some really productive years for the Patriots in the past. Dave Ojabo never really was able to get off that injury report, but, back when he was in college in Michigan, across Maiden Hutchinson, he had some really, really good plays. Jamari Sawyer was a really good offensive lineman for the Chargers and should become the Miami Dolphins starting right guard. Jalen Tolbert was another high pick. Charlie Heck is, just a massive human being. 6 starts last year for Tampa Bay. It's all of his high potential players that is understandable. If they play well, they get another contract. If they don't, it's a 1-year deal. They're gone. So for what it is, I love it. I mean, you go and just draft as many players as you can and just throw things at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I think if you want to go for a rebuild, that's the way to do it. So up next, another AFC East team, and that is New England Patriots. A lot of people think this is a fantastic class, and I do think there's some good, but I do think there's some questions. You lost some guys, Diggs. I think there was a good move cutting him, but I'm gonna go more into their signings because their biggest retaining was Tommy DeVito. Starting it off, Kevin Byard, 1 year, $9 million. I like this. You bring him back to Mike Vrabel. Not a crazy deal for a guy who was a first-team All-Pro last year.
Yeah.
He's getting older. Can he replicate that year? But this is a good, again, first-team All-Pro safety. You're trying to compete. Bring him back to a scheme that you know. I like that move for them. Getting one of the best fullbacks in the game. Again, physicality is key. Reggie Gilliam, 3 years, $12 million for a fullback.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but Fullback love. I think it's a lot for that kind of position, but if you want to establish the run game, which they do, and they want to be more physical, you get top dollar fullbacks. The two I have big questions about are these two. First is Draymond Jones. 3 years, 40 million is a lot. He has been really inconsistent until he had a stretch in Baltimore where he actually played really well. But this is a lot of money to bring this guy, who I think is basically your Kale Von Chason replacement at this point. Definitely more of a pass rushing premium kind of guy, but has a lot of background of just being a disappointing player. I forget who it was that signed him to a big contract. I don't know if it was Seattle. Was it Seattle? It brought him in for like
Yeah,
a
might have been.
massive deal, and he just did not play very well. So I'm not the biggest fan of this one. Although I do think there's upside, and he could still be a good pass rusher coming off of what he did with Baltimore. The other one I think a lot of people like that I'm a little worried about is Elijah Vera Tucker. 3 years, 42 million, right? Your hypothetical plan now is you trade Garrett Bradbury away, which I think is a fine trade. You weren't going to probably keep him in the first place. But right, you take Jared Wilson to center and you take Elijah Vera Tucker, throw him out to guard. That's great. When Elijah Vera Tucker is on the field, he's a very good player. But by God, I don't know his exact injury history, but I don't think he's had a full healthy 16 games or 17, 18 game season.
Yep.
Never had a healthy season. And so that's a lot. That's a lot of money, up to $48 million for a guy who's never played a full season fully healthy. Like I said, when he's on the field, he's very good. But that's an if, when he's on the field. And that injury history really concerns me. And I think it's a lot of money to pay a guy who you will probably not play a full season. The one I like a little bit out of all of them is Romeo Dobbs. It's up to 80 million. 4 years, 68 million, up to 80 million. Holy crap, I did not think Romeo Dobbs was going to get this money. I think this is a very high upside move, though. This is Romeo Dobbs' chance to prove he's a true wide receiver one. Had his best year last year, played really well in some big games, especially down the stretch. I think he fits kind of that Vrabel thing. He's good in contested catches, really smooth route runner. I think he has a lot of high upside. I think he could do very well with Drake May as his quarterback as a premium wide receiver one. But again, it's a risk. You're rolling the dice. It's what free agency is about. Younger guy, hasn't really had a full wide receiver one role, has had inconsistencies, never has had an 1,000-yard season. So that's a lot of money given a guy like that. So when it's all said and done, I think when you pull the curtain, a lot of people have this as an A. I have this as a B to B plus range. I think there's a lot of high upside, but especially some of those bigger signings, you're taking on a lot of risk, but the reward could be really, really good. So I think I'm going to roll it at a B.
Yeah, it's interesting. They kind of just filled in spots that they needed to, which is what normally happens in free agency. Romeo Dobbs is it's high potential. You're betting on a guy who is still only 25. And who's never had a full workload. It's very similar to me of Jalen Naylor, but at a higher scale, because both those players are getting big contracts based on the high potential, not on the past, because they never have had the top receptions. They've never been guys who are consistent number one targets throughout the whole season. So it's something that you're just banking on the future. Javier Tucker, I like it. Obviously there's entry history, but I will say this: a lot of that salary is based on not only in the season performance, but it's based on games played. So that's something like, it's a little bit of a different contract. So they've made it in a way where if he is able to suit up for so many games and gets an extra, I don't know how much money, like 5 million bonus that's instead on his base salary. So something like that, they were able to see, and that I feel like it was a really good deal. Draymond Jones, it's difficult. I don't think he is a premier pass rusher. And I think this is the same money that they could have given Clayvon Chase on to get that same type of production.
Yeah.
So, he's another guy that's, a variable guy, and we're just kind of going to have to see what type of production that fits.
You just kind of got to see where
Yeah. Kevin Byard, another one, it's a 1-year deal. Kevin Byard has had some fantastic seasons. He's played on a lot of teams, and not every team fits his type of, defense tendencies that he plays. If it works, it's great. It's a upgrade on Jalen Hawkins, but it's rare that you just swap out safeties like that with, contracts that are very similar after they just made the Super Bowl. Last one, Reggie Gilliam and Julian Hill are both two really good blocking players at their position, combined into 3 year, $30 million for two guys that are strictly blockers
Yeah.
that are not going to play more than maybe 25% of snaps of the season. To me, that's a lot of money you're throwing at, situational downs, kind of just be interesting. Reggie Gillian on Buffalo played 21% of the snaps. Julian Hill played about 500 special team snaps and not much after.
Yeah.
A lot of money on some high potential guys, but that's what you need with a rookie quarterback.
Exactly. Those rookie quarterback contracts are pain.
Rookie
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, rookie
It's a
deal
whole lot of
quarterback.
pain. Yeah, we got 4 more teams left. So
Perfect.
we're gonna kind of roll through this one. Another one. I like this. New York Football Giants. Good signings. Signed a lot of guys. Jason Sanders to a 1-year deal. I think this is a good kicker signing. Surprisingly, the re-signings, my favorite is by far Jermaine Illuminor. Was fantastic with the Giants. Had his best seasons there. He takes kind of a hometown discount, 3 years, 39 million, 26 guaranteed, which is not bad for one of the best right tackles in football. So I do like that signing a lot. Couple of their other signings, Calvin Austin coming in, not really, 1.5, a lot incentive loaded contract, probably a
Oh,
special.
you jumped over to the NFC for.
Oh my God. Wait, did I
You're good. You did
really?
the Giants instead of the
God.
Jets.
Oh God. Why did I do
That's all right. I'll
that?
take this one over.
Oh
You're good.
God. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, but because I almost started with the Cardinals. And then I realized to
Yeah.
myself, the New York teams always screw me up. Damn it. Well, I kind
Yeah.
of stole some of the. I
No,
think doing
it's
it,
a little sneak peek of next
I'm
week.
doing it. The repetition is killing me. I'm losing it.
All right, very quickly, I will go over the New York Jets. A few big trades, obviously, to go and get Minka Fitzpatrick from the Jets. They swapped third round or day 3 picks. This is fantastic. This is a team that went from record breaking for no interceptions to Minka Fitzpatrick, who has been such a amazing ball hawk throughout his career. They do also trade for Geno Smith.
Oh.
This one is not something that I like at all.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Geno Smith is not an upgrade from Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. She's a different type of quarterback. I don't think this team and this organization and this front office is, have the gifts or hands or is even able to replicate any sort of success that Geno Smith had in Seattle. So I dislike this trade. And you get so much of that contract. I dislike
that's
it.
true. Yeah.
After that, they hit a lot on the defensive line. Joseph Asai, pretty big deal. 3 years, 34.5. I don't know what this necessarily means for the draft, but you get a guy that can come out and be an immediate starter upside Will McDonald. They also double down on some defensive linemen. Kingsley Ingber from the Packers. He's a high-end backup potentially as that secondary pass rush group. You also get, David Omada from the Falcons. This is just, your Devontae, another big bodied run stuffer. He can be right next to Devontae Sweat on like goal line packages, situations like that. Kind of like that Michael Clemens replacement. A few things I do really like. I love the Nation Wright signing.
Yeah.
You called this one.
I did. Yeah, I did.
It's a team that failed to record an interception last year, and they get the corner that had the most picks last year. So, it's a very team friendly contract. 1 year, 3.5. So why not get a guy that's 6'4", and it's just a very physical, athletic corner that's coming off his best career year. After that, I do really like Dane Belton. He's a guy that's staying in, coming over from the Giants. He's a guy that can play any of the safety positions as well as slot corner. They re-signed Andre Sisco. You'll have competition as well with Malachi Moore, that safety position. And then there's one more big one, and that's Demario Davis.
Yeah.
It's funny that the Jets are bringing back some of their, failed experiments from the past, but Demario Davis, it's 2 years, $22 million for a guy that's about 34, 35.
Old, yeah.
He's older. He is still one of the best middle linebackers, and he is the voice and the leader that this defense needs.
Yes.
That's what's most important to me. Is they have a guy now that basically represents what Aaron Glenn wants. And I think Demario Davis, to me, is one of those guys that will end up becoming a head coach in the future. because he
Ooh,
just has
hot
that type of
take.
leadership. So
Hot take.
I do think this is one of my favorite picks. It is a lot of money for a guy that is a little bit older, but I think it's not also necessarily what he brings on the field as much in the locker room.
Yeah,
And he's actually 37. So he'll be 39 by the end of his contract.
crazy. I'm so surprised he went to the Jets out of any other team,
I
but
know.
yeah.
But he was second among all off-ball linebackers and tackles for loss and tackles for no gain. So he's still that much of a productive player.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I had 3 teams, technically 4, that I
Mhm.
said, "Listen, you have to rebuild, right? You have to rebuild the right way." It was the Cardinals, Jets, the Raiders, and the Titans. I think 2 of those teams did it right. One of those I do not think did it 100% right was the Jets.
I
I
agree with you.
just don't think they had the money to spend. They didn't spend it the right way, if you get what I'm saying.
No, and I'll simple this down. I think the Jets front office believe that they're a contender right now. You bring in
That's exactly the
Yep.
way they're
And
moving it.
there's 3 main keys to this. You bring in Geno Smith, bring in Demario Davis, and Minka Fitzpatrick. These are all 3 guys that are arguably past the prime. So other Minka are actually in Minka as well. They're over 32, if not 37. Those are not the correct age ranges for a team that, realistically is 2 to 3 years away from even potentially contending in a very competitive division.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with David Oyemeta too. He's very old.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I just don't think they did it right. Signings that I did like, you're right. Even though Demario Davis is old, the worst in their record was their identity as a team and what they lacked. Mario Davis adds that. Their edge rushers, Joseph Osai's very risky contract, had some
Mhm.
good games, but he now gets a premium pass rush position. But I still don't think that means they're not going to ignore the edge position. Ngabare is definitely, it's a lot of money for a guy who, I guess, from a Packers perspective fan, he's not that great of a pass rusher, but he's a really good run edge. Really, really good at stopping the run. He was fantastic with that last year for Green Bay. Oyemeta upgraded defensive tackle range, but he's old. Will complement Tavondre Sweat. And then one you skipped over, one I kind of like, is Dylan Parham, signing him
Mhm.
from the Raiders. Replaces that Elijah Vera Tucker role. He did let up I think 5 or 6 sacks, but he is a solid offensive guard for the price that you got him at. 2 years, 16 million, super fast athletic guard,
Yep.
really fast and athletic. So I like that they were able to replace him with a solid contract. And then the Minka trade, again, I guess this is my theme is, yeah, these are upgrades for sure. The other thing is, I said the Nashon Wright signing was a lock to the Jets specifically. And one of my reasons was exactly what you said. They need turnovers. That's
Yep.
probably my favorite signing for them. Super low
Mhm.
risk, very high reward signing for them. But yeah, yes, do they get better from these signings? Absolutely. This roster gets better. Is it the right better? Is this a rebuilding better? No, it's exactly what you said. You're a competitive team, on the fringe, kind of a wild card bouncer trying to get into that, deep in that playoff range. And that's not the Jets, man. That's not the Jets. You got a lot more to go, and spending premium money on old players when you probably have a development lifespan with some of these teams of 2 to 3 years or three plus is just not the right
Mhm.
move. So for the sake of their being able to bring guys in, upgrade some really good signings, at least in my opinion, but just not the right direction of what I would like, I'm going to give it a C plus.
Yeah, and I want to say one last point here. When we talk about maybe not the right rebuild, this is what we mean. This is what we mean.
Yeah.
We've seen so many times where it takes you have to draft a rookie quarterback. It takes them 2 or 3 years to be able to ascend to a level that can reach the playoffs. When you bring in contracts that are within this 2 or 3 year window early on, like they have with Demario Davis, Minka Fitzpatrick, David Omada, like it brings a situation where they are allocating so much money to these older veterans that may not have that much production. And when they're ready to succeed and potentially make playoffs or even Super Bowl, their money allocations towards these players that may not be able to produce as
Mm,
well as the players that they could potentially get if they have that money allocated for those players. So that's a big thing where we are saying we agree. We like that they went out and got players. We love that. We don't like not only the contracts, but potentially the way that they've received some of these players.
Some of the
You're taking them these,
it's indicative
yeah, you're
of the
taking these huge contracts of Geno Smith that is going to end up affecting you worse long term than is right
yeah, these contracts are the indicative of the future direction of your team, and
now. Mm-hmm.
it's just not they don't match. But yeah, that's
Exactly.
kind of the Jets' opinion. Of course, the New York Jets can't get anything right. But on to one of
Two more.
two more. It's two
We
more.
have two more teams, and we're going to try to go through these ones a little bit as fast as we can, but
I know,
still
yeah, I know you
allocate
got
enough time with them.
Okay, these are actually two of my favorites. I really love what the Pittsburgh Steelers did. Really good contracts at really good prices. We'll go down. Sebastian Joseph Day, I think, is an above average rotational defensive tackle. Got him on a 2-year deal. Some other small guys. Really good contract to Jaquan Brisker, 1 year, $5.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
It is super similar to the Nashawn Wright contract, in my opinion. Super low risk, very high reward. Brisker definitely has his inconsistencies, but when he plays well, he plays with his hair on fire. Has that Steelers mentality too. I know he was a childhood Steelers fan, so congrats on going back to Pittsburgh. Another really good one, Rico Dowdle. 2 years, $12.5 million, replaced Kenneth Gainwell. Had some stretches of being the best running back in the NFL last year, and you get him for a really, really cheap deal in comparison to some of his other contract peers. Alongside Jalen Warren, this could be a really sneaky 1-2 running back punch for them in the future. Another signing that was really good and cheap for what he was expecting to get is Jamel Dean. 3 years, $36.5 million. He was expected to get a lot more. He comes in, helps out your secondary. Again, really sneaky cornerback duo of Joey Porter Jr. and Jamel Dean. You're getting some
Asante Samuel. We also re-signed.
Yeah, you're getting a premium. This defensive back room is sneakily becoming good again. Sneakily becoming really good again. And finally, Michael Pittman Jr. I think this was a really good trade for Pittsburgh. Gave basically a bag of chips up for him, signed him to a new contract, 3 years, $59 million. I think this is a lot of money for Michael Pittman. This is probably my least favorite contract of them. But he's still, I would say, a mid, the potential to be a high-end wide receiver too, which is exactly how he's going to fit in with Pittsburgh. They're in contending mode. They're probably going to bring back Aaron Rodgers. And all he had last year was DK Metcalf. So bring in Michael Pittman, kind of get another weapon for him. I'd say the only knock I've had is that one is a contract, but also two is they're kind of very similar, very big bodied wide receivers. And so who's going to, and Calvin Austin was kind of your speedster. So the question is, who is going to be kind of that speedster wide receiver for them, that slot guy? So, but overall, I think Pittsburgh really nailed this offseason, got really good contracts of really good players at really good prices and made some big time upgrades. I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. I agree. I think they made some really good players. They got some, like Jaquan Brisker, when he is able to play in a system that fits him, $5.5 million is a fantastic deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think if everything goes their way, this is an A class, but there's one big question. Aaron Rodgers isn't on the roster right now. I think because you haven't exactly been able to figure out that situation, to me, with the roster how it is, what could have been an A, to me is a C minus. Until Aaron Rodgers signs with the team.
Yeah.
Until he signs with the team, jumps up to an A. But because right now you're relying on Will Howard.
He's a fantastic quarterback.
Right now.
You never know. Or could be Ty Simpson. Could be Ty Simpson. You never know.
But with this kind of goes back, how the roster is structured is ready for a win now mode, and you don't have a win now mode quarterback on the roster.
Yes.
Until Aaron Rodgers signs, this is a C minus.
Okay.
Because they didn't do anything else until and didn't do anything else to even target the quarterbacks. They're going all in on Aaron, and he may not be all in on the Steelers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
And then we have one more, and it's a fun one.
We got
the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, man, when you talk about how to rebuild a team through free agency, this is the textbook way on how to do it. You have the money to spend and you say, you know what? You get a contract, and you get good players at good positions. We got a lot to walk through with this. I mean, my God, we already talked.
I know it's sad because we got to go kind of fast through these.
Yeah.
But
We already talked about the Jermaine Johnson trade, so we won't gum on that. They brought in Solomon Thomas from the Cowboys. I actually like this trade a lot. Fits into the
Mhm.
Robert Saleh system. Robert Saleh really liked him when he was there. Good rotational defensive tackle. We'll start, I won't go through all of them. I'll go through the big premium ones. I know
Mhm.
Josh Williams is a good signing, 2 years. Mr. Trubisky, really premium backup quarterback. Bring him on a 2-year deal. Good punter, signing a premium punter in Tommy Townsend. One of the more unsung ones that I think is a very low risk, high reward one was Austin Schlottman, who, and I will say this, you know what? I'm going to say this to myself. When I look back on
Mhm.
my predictions for what Tennessee Titans had for free agency signings, I got a lot of these. So I'm really happy with
Yeah.
that. But Austin Schlottman has the potential to be your starting center. Didn't think they were going to give out a lot of money after the Lloyd Cushenberry signing. 2 years, $8 million. Good contract for them. Jacob Martin, really interesting. 2 years, $11 million. That's a lot for him. And then my least favorite contract by far for the Tennessee Titans was giving Daniel Bellinger 3 years, $24 million. I was not like, listen, I get he's a Brian Dable guy, but oh my goodness, I would rather have Charlie Kolar than this. And even
Mhm.
that, I didn't think was a great contract. I do not know what direction they're going through. He is certainly not a Chigo Conqueror replacement. Not my favorite pick. Now, going their 4 biggest signings, upgrading the secondary, which was desperate. You bring in slot corner Cordell Flott from New York. 3 years, $45 million. I like the deal. I think he's a very underrated slot corner. Plays really well. Fits, bringing him from the Giants, that Brian Dable connection, immediate upgrade. Another one I really like, Alontae Taylor, 3 years, $60 million, 42 guaranteed. He's 29 years old. It's a lot of money, but he's a very, very good corner. Um, Immediately becomes your corner one on the outside, played really well for New Orleans, brings that energy, Robert Saleh energy, and is just a very good corner. Another one I really like too, John Franklin Myers, 3 years, $63 million, 42 million guaranteed. Him and Jeffrey Simmons is going to be a scary combination. And the best part about John Franklin Myers is he can basically play all over that defensive line. He's
Mhm.
kind of a gadget weapon on all sides. He's always, to me, been a really underrated player, but he really broke out with Denver in that role. And I think if there's a guy who could use him to the best of his ability, that is Robert Saleh. Just get more bodies on that defensive line. Finally, their biggest one, Wan'Dale Robinson, 4 years, $70 million. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot for Wan'Dale. But you look at how bad that wide receiver room was. He is their slot receiver of the future. Give Cam Ward weapons. He needs them really bad. Wan'Dale Robinson's a perfect fit. Had his best season under Brian Dable this past year, even after he got fired. They could use him really well. He's good with Dable. Could be excellent with Cam Ward. Kind of you have all these big receivers on the outside: Eric Manor, Shamir DK. You also brought back Calvin Ridley, which
Calvin
I
Ridley.
don't
Yep.
mind, but for the sake, because they brought him on a cheaper contract. But Wan'Dale Robinson fits a position that they desperately needed. Overall, this was probably my favorite free agent signing class because they got good players. They spent a lot of money, but good players with good deals, building that defense around Robert Saleh and trying to get weapons for Cam Ward. This is another A in my book.
Yeah, for sure. And they went out and they got guys that they know. They went out and got multiple guys, that worked with Dayball and multiple guys that worked with Salah. And a lot of teams built through the draft and they raised the floor with free agency, but the Titans built through free agency.
Yeah.
Like they signed so many key players and so many key positions that they need that they can go into this upcoming draft with, a top 5 pick and basically go anywhere that they want to. So I really like this. It gives them so much flexibility. I mean, they could go right now into the new year and play with the roster that they have right now, and it was so much better than last year's. And that doesn't include any potential rookies that they could get in this upcoming draft. So as a Jags fan, I hate it. As a overall fan of sports, I love this. I love this group.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, the D tackles are now the best, one of the best duos of D tackles in the league. Definitely dangerous, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I know you got a lot. That concludes the AFC grades. This was a long video, but for good reason,
This
because,
was,
man,
yeah.
we love free agency. That concludes it. It's good to be back, I really didn't get to talk about this guy, but shout out to my one-year wonder, Gary Barnes. I was going to mention him when we did the Cleveland Browns. He was elite, one of the best catches of all time when he played against Baltimore Ravens. But Thank you guys so much for tuning in to AFC free agency grades. Really hope you enjoy it. Glad to be back together. Let us know what you guys think of the grades. If you think there's any underrated signings or overrated signings that we missed or that you disagree upon. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah. And James, Gary Barnage, in the background had one of the most fun, fantasy football commercials ever. So,
Yes.
kind of a little bit of a throwback there. But yeah, James, it's glad to have you back, and I'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Go sip on some margaritas by the beach, my guy.
Don't you worry. All right.
See you, brother.
Take care.